Good day or good morning to our colleagues from Estonia, and we are starting our next online meeting, online lecture with colleagues from Estonia. And today we have two nice ladies, as I see, from Estonia, from Tallinn, and Professor Tiia Rüütmann, Associate Professor of Engineering Pedagogy at Tallinn University of Technology in Estonia, and another our colleague, Urve Lamanauskas, if I pronounced well, sorry, because it's not so easy to pronounce. Possible you will introduce shortly yourself. Also assistant professor at Estonian Academy of Music and Theatre, if I understood well, also from Estonia. And it's really nice to see our colleagues from Baltic state, one of the Baltic states, in particular Estonia. It's not so frequent possibility and a good chance really to have you. And it's a real pleasure to see our colleagues today, and I think it will be quite interesting, quite useful to know more and to learn more about Estonia context in general, and some important and interesting issues. Okay, and I think that we can start approximately, let's say, 40-50 minutes like a presentation, and later on possible some short discussion, questions, answers, etc. Okay, I don't know, possible Tiia or...
Yeah. Thank you so much for inviting us. And this, as it was already said, I am an engineer from my background, and now associate professor of Tallinn University of Technology, working at Estonian Center for Engineering Pedagogy. So we are just dealing with teaching engineering and educational problems in the field of engineering. And Urve perhaps also will say some words.
Well, I am actually retired, but I still have a few lectures at the Estonian Academy of Music and Theatre, and I teach educational sciences there. And also we both are having contacts with teachers from different educational institutions when we try to do some cooperative research.
And I would like to say also about Urve that she's one of our best specialists in curriculum design. So that's why I asked her, as she knows about education much more as I do. So let's start. Education in Estonia. We'll have an overview. I have added lots of links to the references at the end. So if students are interested, they can go and read some more information about Estonia. But how can we... we are having overview here of our presentation. At first, we already had some kind of introduction now about Estonian education system, some overview of different levels of our education, statistical overview and some numbers, and then about principles of science-based didactics and education. And at the end, we will have a conclusion and some questions and answers. So I think it's okay with you, and we'll start. As we may say that Estonia, as all Baltic countries, are very proud of our education because we are small countries, and it is the one, we may say, engine that holds all the system and the country in moving and in development. So really, Estonia is a very small nation. And as you see on this slide, according to the 1897 census, already 91% of Estonian population could read and write. And in 1934, the number was 96%. So there was no, we may say, illiteracy in Estonia already before the Second World War. And in 2009, the rate was already 99.8. So we can say that the level of education is very high in Estonia. The highest educational level is secondary education in our population. And we may say also that about 40 and even more % of working age population have higher education. In cities, it is even higher, 48.8% of working age population have higher education in Estonia, and 1/5 of the people who are in the age of 25 to 64 have master's degree. So the level is quite high, this number, and this graph is from 2021. So 2 years ago, this analysis was done for the last time, and it will be just carried on every now and then, but the last numbers are here on the graph. I will also send this presentation to you after our meeting, so you can share it, and you have some links also here. So we are proud, as I said, the PISA tests levels are high, and it is thanks to our teachers. Though the number of teachers, as I will show also in this presentation, is decreasing, and we are having problems. So we really are needing those elderly teachers who are still working and teaching our students. And starting with the largest or the big picture. Our Constitution of the Republic of Estonia and legal acts support the right to education for everyone, and children for school age, it is compulsory to go to school. The education is free for the general schools, and also for gymnasiums, and today also for higher education. But there are some kind of discussions that higher education students perhaps will have some kind of fee to pay, a kind of fee in the future, but not now. And yes, there are lots of legal acts that support education in different levels, and it is free for now. So the system of our education is, I think, quite similar to all those who are in Europe and in Baltic states. So we're having preschool education quite early already, from 1.5 years, for children whose parents have to go to work. And then the basic education starts at the age of 7, and it is compulsory. And after that, students will have to take basic school final exams, and according to those exams and the entering exams to secondary education, students are taken to the gymnasia. So they will have to do the basic final exams at the end of basic education, and then exams to get into gymnasiums. And it is usually in spring at the end of basic education. And then secondary education is provided on 2 levels: in vocational education and general upper secondary education, or in the gymnasium. And secondary vocational education students who will take secondary leaving exams can also go to university, just like in gymnasia. So it is according to Bologna system. There are bachelor and master's degree, 3+2, and PhD degree just additionally for at least 4 years at the end. So this is the big picture of our education, and education system in another view with ISCD levels is also given on this slide, where you can see that children are provided already education from the very first year if needed, and the duration of programs are also given here on this slide. So there's also a workplace courses for work-based learning in Estonia already. So There's different possibilities. A link there under this slide takes you to this description of the system. You can go through if you are interested and have a look at it more closely.
So, preschool education has been an important part of education since Comenius and Froebel's time. And in Estonia, preschool education is quite popular. About 94% of children at preschool age attend kindergartens, and they are prepared for school, and all the kindergartens are pretty autonomous, and they can decide according to their own local conditions what they are paying the greatest attention to. And there are 4 types of preschool childcare institutions. They have started now also with nurseries for the smallest, for children aged 1 to 3. But parents who can afford staying at home try to take their children to kindergartens, usually at the age of 3. And the usual requirement is that by that time they are expected to be potty trained. And it's pretty important in some cases. Of course, at the senior preschool age, so to say, they already try to get acquainted what is expecting them at school. And that is usually quite an interesting and I would say rationally organized cooperation between parents and the kindergarten staff. There are some dates to remember, namely, if the child has some problems with speaking at the age of 5, that's the latest age to consult a speech therapist and get help. And usually all these problems, earliest solved, give best results. Local governments are responsible for kindergartens, and sometimes they are a bit worried, especially in towns, that there is not enough opportunity to get a place in a kindergarten immediately. So usually you have to queue up a bit. But anyway, kindergartens are popular. So the next level, general comprehensive education, starts usually at the age of 7. The child must be 7 by October the 1st of the current year. Schools all work according to common national curricula. Since last year, schools have gained still more autonomy than they had before. So national curricula are frameworks, and its content will be filled by teachers. Here you see the documents we have had in the period of regained independence, and our schools are following the liberal free market ideology. Of course, there are more opportunities for elective subjects, but also it's a bit more difficult for schools to take the responsibility, because conditions in rural and urban areas can be quite different, considering small schools in villages and very big schools in the cities. We also follow the European framework, considering the duration of the school year. It usually has 35 weeks and at least 175 school days. So, the basic compulsory education, it's usually acquired from the age of 7 until the age of 17. And the basic schools are usually divided into 9 grades, into 3 stages. Every stage is 3 classes or 3 years long. And at the end of grade 9, they have to take their exams. And it has been specified how big the weekly workload of pupils can be. So you can follow it here on the slide. And as you see, the highest number is 34 lessons per week in grade 9. It's quite a considerable workload. When they move on to gymnasium, the maximal number of weekly lessons has not been specified, but they must have at least 32 lessons per week. And the total amount of subject courses in gymnasia is 96, of which compulsory courses are 63, and school can decide within 33 courses. Well, we have traditional subjects like those in almost all European countries, but the number of optional subjects has considerably increased. And there are different forms for acquisition of general education. You can study in ordinary daytime schools. There are also opportunities for studies in the evening time. There are online and distance learning and external study. And just considering the school premises and schools in different areas, they used to be full cycle schools from grades 1 to 12. But now there are already several basic schools with grades 1 to 9 and so-called state gymnasia with classes 10 to 12.
Vocational education is also a secondary vocational education. It is based on compulsory education, so it's possible to just continue your learning after the general education in vocational education, either after the 9th class or also after the gymnasium. Then the learning period is smaller, and now more and more popular are also courses for adult learners. So people after graduating, for example, higher education, go back to vocational schools to learn something practical, to learn something how to do either in carpentry or whatever. Gardening is also very, very popular, and so on. So the curriculum is also just divided, we may say, in 2 parts. One is the specialty you are learning, and then as it is a general education-based vocational school that goes on up to secondary level, so they also have to learn general education subjects. And there are for up to 35 additional study weeks for those subjects. And they also may take state examinations after vocational education. So you may go on to higher education already, or to any kind of colleges to learn more. So there are no dead ends in any of those possibilities. And there are about 32 vocational educational institutions, and also universities of applied science altogether. And the largest vocational education institution is Tartu Vocational Education Center, with more than 2,700 students. There are these kind of centers all over Estonia, and more popular is on-job learning. So as Estonian higher education is so on a very good level. We have 6 state universities. There are 2 private universities and 9 applied higher education institutions. So those applied higher education institutions usually give bachelor degree. There are some, like for example, Tallinn Applied University of Technology, that also gives master levels in some specialities, but usually after applied higher education, students move to and go to state universities or to private universities to have the master and doctoral degrees. So Tallinn University of Technology is the only university of technology in Estonia. And we also have, for example, that is very popular is the Aviation Academy.
Yeah.
Yes, it's also applied higher education level, very popular for technology students, and there are pilots who are trained there, and it's very popular within our students. Now, as I said, our rector once, I may repeat his quote that Estonia is not a small country. Estonia is a very small country. So, as you see, our population, in 2023, it was 1,370,000, and about a bit less than 1.5 million inhabitants in Estonia, mostly living in cities now, and the development of age also given here in the table and on graphs. But yes, we may say that we really are a small country, and for that, all those levels of education are on very good level. So we may say that primary education, now some statistics and numbers for you. In 2023, there were preschool institutions, the whole number 560. And as you see in urban institutions, there are just more than in rural places. Well, for formal education institutions by type, here you see, we also just give you some kind of comparing from 2000 and from 2023. The number of general education schools have decreased a bit, and of course also those higher education institutions. The market has been, we may say, just shrinked, and it is more effective now because there are lots of private higher education institutions at the beginning of we may say regaining of independence. And now it is shrink to more better system. And here on the lower table on this slide, you can see also comparisons for just earlier years, also from 2000 up to 2013. Enrollment in formal education type, according to the level of education and year. You see the total enrollment in thousands of students in 2023 was 242,000 and a bit more. And in basic school level, 138,000. In general education, 171,000 students last year. And here also are given the number of our higher education students. So in bachelor studies, there were 16,000. You can see less than in 2000. Then the number was 27,000 students. So the number has been shrink. We also have integrated bachelor's and master studies in quite many fields, like in medicine, for example, and in many fields of engineering civil engineering and some mechanical engineering curricula that have integrated bachelor and master education studies. And in doctoral studies, and there were about 2,000 students in 2023, but you also can compare the numbers in vocational courses. As you see, they have become more popular, but yes, after secondary education, the number has fallen. So you can go through those graphs later and have a look at it. Well, very popular topic, the salary of teachers. I think it has been also a problem in Latvia and perhaps also in Lithuania, at least a field of discussion. And here we also give you some kind of comparison in 2 years. So 21 and 24, and the first part of the year, or first half of the year, are the numbers of this year also. So as you see, the highest salary have university and higher education teachers. And now the level of the salary of vocational and secondary education teachers, as you see, has risen, because there was a very big problem that the salary was sufficient for teachers, and in comparison of those 3 years, we may say that the salary has risen and the situation is much better. But there are ongoing discussions on the salary of teachers going on. So I think there will be some kind of discussions, though it was already said that during the next 4 years there will be no changes in salaries, as the state budget is very tough situation, and we can't rise salaries for coming 4 years. Just to compare the subject sheet students who are learning in master level, just their admission number and graduates. As you see, we may say the falling or dropping out number is quite high, especially in STEM teaching, and we really have a problem with STEM teachers. And if they graduate, they very often don't go to university, to schools to teach, and that's why the number of elderly teachers is very high. Yes, and here you see teachers in general education according to the age group in Estonia. So as you see, the violet color shows us the teachers of 60 and older, and dark blue teachers who are younger than 30 years. So the number of elderly teachers is very high, because there is a shortage of teachers, and all those who can teach come to school every day. They are very welcome, because I think it's not only a problem in Estonia, it's a problem also in Europe, but yes, the problem with teachers, and as you see from the graph also, the number of teachers who are older than 60 years is rising year by year. Sorry. Now a bit about teacher education. That is a basic, we may say, prerequisite for good education. There is also 3+2 principle according to Bologna in teacher training, and at the gymnasium, teachers can teach only with master's degree. They also now, according to the new law, if they do not have pedagogical training, for example, you are an engineer teaching math, then you will have to apply for teacher's profession and have a profession also just proving that you have pedagogical skills. But we have a problem. Yes, there is about 1/3 of teachers who are unqualified, especially STEM teachers. That means there are not enough people who can teach math on different levels of education. And the lack of teachers is both in urban and rural areas. So training of teachers in Estonia is carried out in 2 universities. It is University of Tallinn and University of Tartu. In earlier times also our technical university was involved in teacher training, but just now the right to train teachers is given only to universities, and I think this is also kind of a problem in our lack of teachers. So there is also a reorganization of pre-service teacher training, and also we will say in-service teacher training is on free market. We also have this kind of we may say continuing education, but this is absolutely on project-based principles, and we are not happy with this. But yes, just now a requalification of teaching and training for requalification is on rise. And what is very popular, those micro-credential programs for teachers. So we have some specialists in the science or math who have been graduated as a specialist, for example, engineers or in science, and then they can pass through micro-credential programs and go to teach to schools.
So there is also a topic related to people with special educational needs, not only children, but also grown-ups. And as we know, special educational needs are really different. They consist in a wide diapason from talented learners to slow achievers. And of course, Estonia has a good tradition of specialized schools for talented students since 1960s, specializing in STEM, sports, arts, music, languages, and so on. And these have been the schools that have, so to say, provided material for our regained independence. Today we are more talking about inclusion because humanly it's important to include everybody into education and provide them with opportunities to learning to as much as their individual capabilities allow. Slow achievers are usually considered a problem, and it's important to understand that quite often, usually, they need medical as well as pedagogical support. When pedagogical support is provided at schools, more or less, medical support is not possible. However, there are differentiated approaches from in-depth studies to complex support, and still some special schools are needed. And especially for those with visual and hearing impairment, they are often also provided with hearing aids, and of course students with mental retardation, which are usually diagnosed according to international list of diagnoses starting from F70 up to F73. They have their own curricula as well as special organizational forms for learning. It's also important to know that in Estonia, parents take the final decision, and usually they agree if their children need some special environments. However, sometimes they may refuse a place offered for some special school. And what has to be admitted, we could use much more charity organization to support those people with special educational needs, as it has been done in several other European countries. It is still the field to do some active work in.
What we have been concentrating on Estonia is science-based teaching. That means teachers have really a scientific-based training and research-based and science-based didactics. Different field didactics like in STEM and language and music are very important, and also the subject didactics if needed. So they are used at schools and also at universities. So for example, that's why in our university, the Estonian Center for Engineering Pedagogy has been founded. So we really support our professors and just beginning faculty members with didactics of our field. What we really need, and there was a very high level of professional counseling and systematic continuing education in earlier times. So just now, this we are really just needing it, and there is a lack of it. Especially as I already said, the continuing education is on the project-based principles, and it's not systematic. What we also try to move on back is content-based education. That means there was a period of thinking that a teacher will have to know how to teach, and it's not very important to know what to teach. So now we really want to show that if you are teaching math, you have to know everything about math. And so on. So content is one and the very important and the first and foremost in teaching, though in our national curriculum it is quite free to select the content, and this may bring some problems, for example, in university, because if in different schools a different content is selected, so there will be a problem with students coming from different schools. So we want to change this content to be more important. And of course, methodology, that is not just a methodology, but it should be suitable for effective teaching of the relevant content. And it should be just selected according to the content, and it should help students to learn with deep understanding and comprehension. There are principles of assessment just now under discussion. There were some people who said that there is no need for assessment. It is quite a demotivating part of teaching and learning, but I really don't agree with this. And of course, critical thinking. Just during our AI time and era, we may say that it is the most important we have to teach to our students, because you cannot believe everything you get from AI. Mentoring and coaching are on rise for students and for teachers, and very popular also at different workplaces, not only at education.
So since 2012, we have offered teachers a kind of a general educational design model, which looks like that, with 7 important questions we have to ask whenever we plan a lesson or whenever we try to write a curriculum or a course plan. And it starts with those 7 questions initially asked by Adolf Melesinek and Hilda Taba already in 1970s. And the first question is why. That is the question giving answer about the aims and goals of education or of a particular school subject. The question who concerns students and teachers, students' abilities to acquire a particular content. And of course, we expect all teachers to be qualified people in their field. What is the curriculum? What do we learn? What do we teach? That is the content point. So the question how is about methods of teaching. The question how much is the planned time for learning. And usually when we try to put a curriculum into practice, we often lack time because it's not so easy to choose relevant content and relevant time. Just below there, where we see the question where, it is about learning environments. And finally, in the middle, where we have the point where all questions meet, is the question when, and that builds the sequence of learning content and learning activities. So teachers have accepted that model pretty well, and it allows you to plan your lessons quite rationally. So I would like to say a few more words about supportive learning environments. So actually, people do not talk that much about educational economics. But educational economics is the key factor at the moment, especially considering our national budgets and opportunities within it. We cannot always afford everything, and we cannot always put all good ideas into practice. However, supportive learning environments are those that usually cost most, and it is important to consult different systems implemented in many countries which deserve attention and which we still have not solved in Estonia in the best economic or rational way. And of course, we have to find out what could be improved so that under present conditions, we could offer best for our students as well as teachers. Teachers are the ones who must be professionally competent to understand what supports best the learners when they are learning a particular subject. And here are the key principles. All learning environments have to be functional and safe. And it's important to know the positive and negative sides of different physical environments, such as classroom, school furniture, etc. School architecture has become a topic very well discussed, and I would say also put into practice with so-called state gymnasia. They have used new materials, new solutions, forum spaces, etc. However, it's important to make the most careful analysis. What are the good and bad sides of open spaces, closed spaces, and what are the health requirements to all school rooms and territories. So study aids are also important. It's important to have them in learners' mother tongue It's good to have both traditional textbooks, didactic materials, but also make the best of web-based materials. There are also human environments we should consider, especially class and group sizes, but also human relations and communication skills, both those of students as well as those of teachers. And finally, how well can we use local environments, museums, memory institutions, parks, nature, and I quite agree with those people who sometimes tend to exaggerate a bit and say, all the world is the learning environment. Be smart and use it.
Well, what we also use on the level of engineering education in vocational schools, universities, and also there are elective subjects of engineering at gymnasia. It is Principles of International Society for Engineering Pedagogy, and the model just very, very similar to what that Urve describes, with the same questions about the steps that our new teachers will have to go through when building up their subject, designing it, and just with that curriculum, designing the syllabus, designing the one structure of a lesson. So they will have to think about the goals and learning outcomes, about students' prior knowledge and abilities, and about the course content and technology they use, and also about how to, which methodology to teaching and methodology of assessment to use. And then at the end, they will reach the scholarship of teaching and learning. It means they have to reflect and give feedback and make relevant changes. So we have this kind of a prototype curriculum for the STEM teachers on the continuing education level. So we have engineers to pass it who can go to teach to vocational schools or gymnasia or higher education institutions. So you can also find a link here about this international society and have a look at it. So what we have come to is, yes, new methodology is very good, but you cannot throw out this old traditional ones. Because as a research by Professor Richard Felder from USA shows that new methodologies like problem and project-based learning doesn't give the systematic knowledge for students. And that's why we have to find the balance. We have to find the balance between short lectures and give them active learning exercises and seminars and discussions and different active learning possibilities up to labs and simulations, and yes, the highest level of creativity brings with problem-based learning and project-based learning, also team-based learning and studio learning, where students on different levels, like in bachelor, master, and doctoral level, work together with real engineers. So the studio level is the one we have been implemented also at our university. And of course, CDIO, our university is the member of this network. You can find CDIO from online. Also, it is an international network of technical universities for problem and project-based learning. But yes, have to find balance, and only then we give systematic knowledge to our students. And problem and project-based learning also needs knowledge in the speciality. So now in the AI area, we have to give tools for thinking, systems about future, about values, about strategies, support critical and creative thinking, give the possibility to collaborate and communicate. And these 4 C's, as it is said, those critical thinking, collaboration, communication, and creativity are the most important in problem solving in any field, but especially in engineering. And about assessment, as I said, it has been now different from the classical one due to AI, because There is no sense of asking our students to write essays anymore. The AI will give you a wonderful essay. Of course, as a teachers, we can understand that AI has been used, but it's still used, and not always references are given. What we are being to principle of educative assessment, that our criteria and standards will have to be introduced in the first lesson. We have to reflect and support metacognition also for students. They have to get constant feedback, and we as teachers will have to get constant feedback, and self and peer assessment is more and more important. But we also use video reports in labs, for example, where students don't write reports but do it in a short video. Group examinations where they get a real-world problem to solve, and they have to present it either on site after 2 hours, for example, or we also give this kind of examinations of, for example, 72 hours. So you will get, as students get a problem, and they will have to come back in 72 hours, presenting everything they have found with AI, from books, from online, and they have to describe every step and every decision and say why they did this kind of a decision and on what theory they rely. So there are lots of possibilities, make analysis of mistakes, reflect, write a manual for the next group of students, and so on. So this kind of assessment methods are more effective now in the period of AI. And what technology we use in classroom? Lots of different. I would like to show, just to point out this online learning resources. We in Estonia are having this OPIC environment where there are online materials for basic schools, for gymnasia, for vocational schools. This is the online network for our learning materials and works very well. There are cloud computing, there is AI and Internet of Things, personalized learning. We use lots of drones, autonomous vehicles, robots, virtual reality, augmented reality, extended reality labs, so on. So 3D printers and metal printers also, and lots of platforms. And smart boards are in our classrooms and interactive projectors. What we also use is NASA STEAM Task Bank, where we get lots of good problems and projects. Well, there is my photo. You see, I used a telepresent robot in my lesson. So students who couldn't come to my lesson, there were 3 of them. And they were there in the telepresent robot. They could move all around the classroom. They could take part in group discussions and so on. So it was quite a good experience for me. I had to activate students in my classroom and they're online. And now, well, it is a very good thing. But what we are using here, you can see the students' works, they have been done during our studies. There are military robots, milrem robots, there are autonomous buses and cars. There are different industrial robots, student formula car that won the first place this year. And there were 100 teams from different technical universities, though, so they work on this kind of student formulas. And they really do these real projects within this studio learning, where bachelor, master, and PhD students are working together, teaching each other, working together with engineers. What we have to look forward is AI education is coming. AI is coming to our education more and more. So we really think about that it will be as a teaching aid in the future. It will support the moving towards intelligent university. Just now already, 2 of my colleagues are using AIs as tutors. So AI has been trained within the topic of their subject, and students, if they have problems, they ask from AI and they get quite good answers already. And one student also made a good joke. He asked from AI that how many strings there are in a guitar, and the AI answered, "Sorry, we are just learning now, and it is not a topic of our today's over today's talk. So it is quite wise already. We have been trying to train it. Yes, of course, lots of challenges coming in the future, but we're trying to use it more and more. And of course, it's not possible to say and that you cannot use it anymore. It's very important. So a link and future strategies for Estonian education. As you see, there are three basic, we may say, pillars: learning opportunities and organization of education. Important also part of learning to learn. The teachers' learning environments to build up and to support education, society and labor market. And very important is also adults' lifelong learning now. Their professional qualification, and we try to keep the results of our PISA tests.
Just a few words about ongoing reforms. The message is very short. As you can see, there are different reforms underway. The message is, before you start, prepare them, considering resources, time, money, and competence. And that means a lot. It's very easy to discredit reforms. It's always better to carry them out successfully.
Yes, and as you see, we are planning to move the compulsory education to 18 years in Estonia. We are planning to, and it's ongoing already, the reform that there will be teaching only in Estonian language. That brings lots of discussions, but we are going on with this reform. There will be electronic final exams in the future, and there's really lots of micro-credentials. So at the end of our presentation, there usually is a lot of pseudo-satisfaction, and we have to know that there is always something to achieve. So we have to keep on with our PISA success. That means we would need good teachers. But there are lots of new environments, students using online different devices, and digitalization, according to the research, shows that the IQ has been decreasing for 8 points already for using only digital environments. So again, we have to find balance for making our students to discuss, to talk, to come together in the classroom, to give more in-service learning, to have more systematic approach in curriculum, a design from kindergartens to university. So it could be more systematic with taking account of sequences. Continuing education cannot be project-based, so we have to make some changes. Of course, the problem of everlasting reforms is tiring. As I already showed you, there is aging teaching staff. We have to work on it. The strategy should be analyzed, as Urve said. We have to think quite many steps forward, thinking what it can bring along. So we need a long-term vision for the future. And globalization also is a quite good influencer. The problems with STEM is all over the world, not only in Estonia. And as I also, we may say that soft sciences are regional or local, but STEM is global. It is global everywhere and is similar everywhere. We really have to accept human values and at the end, yes, all reforms must be prepared. And there are only 3 resources in education. It is time, money, and our teachers' competence. So we have to keep on it. And now we thank you. We start packing up and we're waiting for your questions if there are any.
Okay, thanks so much, Tiia and Urve, for your nice presentation and interchanged presentation, because you reached, let's say, so good synergy and interplaying during your presentation, and it was really good. I'm inviting also my students, possible to raise some questions. It's possible to use chat, as we already mentioned before, and Okay, really nice, really rich presentation, and it was possible to get a larger picture about Estonia education system and about technologies. But as we're saying in Lithuania, you mentioned several times that Estonia is really small, very small. but in Lithuania, we're saying a little bit differently. We should think how small becomes big. For example, not big or large in territory, but big in mind, big in competence. Let's say, as Americans saying, smart in all senses. Technologically, professionally, etc. It's really a lot of common in Estonia and in Lithuania. Just during listening your presentation, I have checked some statistics, for example, in Lithuania, and we can see, for example, that in let's say last school year, 23-24, in Lithuania were 338 gymnasium, for example. But in comparison, in 2018 and 19 school year, it were 357. It's also just one fact, but it's decreasing. Number of different schools decreasing quite, let's say, quite fast. And if I understood well, in Estonia also, number of schools reducing, number of students reducing at all stages, at all levels. And possibly my first question is, it's in Lithuania quite, let's say, quite dramatical from one side, and in other words, quite difficult and complex thing is so-called optimization of school network. It means that a lot of schools, mainly small schools in rural areas, in villages, just closed during, let's say, last 2 or 3 years. What about Estonia?
Well, we are having the same problem. As there is more employment opportunities in towns, people tend to move to towns and cities. And in addition to decrease of students' number, we also got a kind of document from OECD. Its title was Shrinking Smartly, which offered recommendations, especially considering educational economics. How more could be achieved with, let's say, less money? And accordingly, all those calculations, how many students per teacher, or how much learning time, or what kind of study aids, be it textbooks or web-based materials. So economics is the key word. And that's why, of course, local governments just can't afford everything they would really like to. So you can see that the numbers have decreased in Estonia as well. And the reasons are both social, economical, and cultural. So it is.
Okay, in continuation, is it possible to have low-cost education or cheap education?
Well, it's difficult to give, so to say, recipes for that. But at least...
Possibly in opposite, we need to invest a lot in education.
Of course, education is always investment for future. And if you think about how long it takes to, for instance, write a good math textbook, it takes usually 2 years for the authors who are experts and who would like to try it out at least a bit. So really, we have had it pretty good in some sense. There are several textbooks available, let's say math grade 5. But if you really want to economize, so in several countries, there is just one textbook officially available to be used in schools. So that makes life cheaper, but you always have to consider the smaller the country, the more expensive your education becomes.
Well, Vincentas has also asked that.
I just put one question into chat for easier reading and understanding. But the question you already mentioned during presentation about shortage of teachers, but in different levels, primary, secondary, etc. Can you comment shortly about the main reasons, let's say, for this shortage? Because in addition, you have mentioned that, for example, generally salary for teachers relatively good, quite good.
Well, there have been quite many reasons. I can just give some of them. There are teachers who graduate from those courses, but they do not go to work as teachers. There are even more highly paid workplaces in Estonia. What is the problem now is this liberal education. The teachers, we may say, are in the position that parents can demand everything from you and you will have to answer. You do not have this kind of authority and rights as it was in earlier times. Just now, the authority of the teacher's profession is not so high in Estonia. They are trying to do it and rise it, and there are lots of activities done for finding students also to go to teach at schools. But what we can see is that some of them even go to school, but lots of young teachers leave after the first year. And just now trying to find out the reason. The workload is high. They have to work with tests back at home. So responsibility very high, and so on. For example, even at the university, as you saw, the highest salary at university teachers. I can bring you an example. My colleague, a young man who left the post, and he said that he's an engineer. Industry offers him twice as much as a professor at our university, so the salary is twice as high. He has 3 children and he wants to live his life better. So that is, people are looking for what I can say, more comfortable life just now in this good life we are having. They do not have resilience also asked. Yes, could it be related with resilience? What do you think?
What we mean by resilience, I think when somebody works at a job, probably everybody expects to be good at it or successful, at least to a certain extent. But if a young person does not feel that she has become successful as a teacher, they try to leave. And as you probably remember, in earlier times, there was a compulsion. After you had studied 5 years at the university, you had to work 3 years at school. And we all did, and we all survived. But that's true what Tiia has just said. Parents have become considerably more critical, and due to those liberal approaches, there is, let's say, less motivation for students to get good results. What I have sometimes noticed at the university is the main idea or the main goal is to get a pass mark, just satisfactory and no more. But I remember there were times when there was a competition within a student group to show that you are professionally excellent in your field, be it chemistry or music or literature or whatever. So I wouldn't say that excellence is the only aim. But I think, again, the better you are, the more competent you are in your own field, the more successful you will be at school, because students notice. I mean, not only students at university, but also at ordinary schools. They somehow perceive it by skin, if you are really competent in your field or not. And if they decide, I mean the students, that you are okay, you will survive nicely. I have been working at school for 52 years. As you see, still alive.
Yeah, I think that mentoring is also now the part that is helping those young the teachers to stay there back at school. But yes, as Vincentas also has asked about math, science and math, it is absolutely acute problem of teachers with science and math. And what we are just now feeling here at the university level, that as I already said, 1/3 of our teachers are not qualified. Teachers who teach maths, especially in smaller schools out of towns, are not very good in maths themselves. So what we have got, a big problem for me, is that we have two kinds of maths at gymnasium. We have this kind of a wide math and a short math. And you have the possibility to make a selection at the end of 9th grade, when coming to the gymnasium, which kind of a math you will select. So if you are a student from the 9th grade, you will select the easiest form. I think it's always good to get through. But when you want to go to learn to engineering or to technical universities, the wider math is required. So we are just now working with the aim that there will be only one math at the gymnasium with a state examination similar to everyone. Well, new school year started on September 1st, and with the first stage of the transition language reform and the end of Russian language education, can we comment? Yes.
Well, it's a really difficult problem. Of course, a political decision has been made 30 years ago already, and it has there have been several attempts to change the language of instruction. They started at gymnasium level some 10 years ago, so that 60% of the curriculum was expected to be in Estonian and 40 could be in Russian. Unfortunately, no one knew of what you will calculate the percent. You can't compare learning maths and learning sports. They are slightly different. So now they have started with grades 1 and 4. Grade 1 is more or less okay, because that's the very beginning of schooling. And it's possible to have differentiated groups at schools. However, it's probably not a very good situation with the students of grade 4, because they have to start with learning more specific school subjects, and they do not have the vocabulary for that. So the beginning at the level of kindergarten and grade 1, we can be modestly, let's say, positive about its success. But I'm afraid grade 4 students at the moment will probably have a need for some additional, I don't know, summer camps or trainings or whatsoever. Otherwise, they will have problems with acquisition of subject knowledge.
Yes, and there also has been a slight problem with teachers, because the Russian language speaking teachers could not learn Estonian so quickly, so the period was prolonged for them, so they will have to pass Estonian exam, and then they can teach. So they have got some more time now for this. But I really personally say that this should have been done 30 years ago. But it's right. It's very good that we have done it at last.
No, better late than never.
I don't hear you, Vincentas. Your mic is turned off.
Say it's politically possible some difficulties.
Well, I don't see the political differences. I think
they have more or less agreed, different political parties.
And no problems with parents, for example, or families. So they really have agreed with this. But yes, the problem was that the Russian-speaking teachers were not so quick learners, and they need some more time. So let's see how it happens. But it's quite peaceful process on the level of our society.
Okay, so interesting. But one let's say more issue to discuss, because you mentioned during your presentation that not only it's possible to read on some sources online, etc., about liberal free market ideology. Is it correct in education or for education? Well, let's say to go to this way or to stay on this platform?
Well, as we may define different educational ideologies philosophically, it has to be said that there is no clear-cut classical ideologies anymore. Every country has tried to somehow combine elements from different ideologies. But in the times after the collapse of the Soviet Union, the big ideals of freedom and liberties are two different things. And unfortunately, also comprehension of the rights and responsibilities concerning democracy are really, really very different. And quite often we have had problems with exaggeration of liberties, and we have much less responsibility, especially with let's say school activities. Children don't want to pluck up their strengths and really make an effort to get excellent results. They are satisfied, which could be mildly put as, oh, that's good enough. But if we want to achieve something high, really, just satisfactory or good enough is not enough. We should have a bit more. And that's why this understanding of it's even visible in sports, you know. We did not win any Olympic medals this summer and we are so unhappy. So perhaps it's not the best example, but in a way it shows that hard work still makes sense. And not everybody has accepted this idea. And usually people think when we talk about ideology, it must be only red ideology, Soviet ideology, but actually the word ideology comes from the word idea. Ideas about something, ideas about education, what is valuable, what is more valuable, what's less. And this liberal approach, do what you want, it just does not pay off anymore. We can't behave in any possible way. We have to start respect norms and other people again. Simple as that.
A question to us, what are the fundamental principles guiding Estonian early childhood education? What makes the Estonian early childhood education system unique in an international context?
Oh dear. We used to be unique, really, because our music education is one of the fields which really is different from other countries, because we start with professional, I stress the word professional, music education delivered by professional music teachers from kindergarten up to the end of grade 12. And as I remember, in World Education Forum in 2020, there was a kind of general approach to start globally anew with, let's say, restructuring of education and starting from kindergarten. I would say arts education, music, mastering, nature studies are the things that have always been important in Estonian kindergartens. And as research now shows, those kids who have studied lots of music, maybe I am making a too big generalization, but music supports development of thinking skills. And Finnish research in particular, we could send you some links. They have done a lot of brain research in the field. And actually, it's culturally very relevant because our song festivals or song celebrations, they are all based on that experience that starts already in kindergarten. Don't think we have no problems with kindergartens. We do. We have cell phones, we have much worse speaking skills than we would like to have with our children, but still, if they are more or less prepared for school, the progress is much faster. And I think still this, well, I don't want to discuss any educational philosophy here, but this Bildung approach coming from the, let's say, German philosophy is still valid in Europe because we still have more, let's say, school subjects in all Baltics and other countries, because every activity, every field of activity or school subjects represent a human experience of its kind. And we have been good in PISA also. One of those reasons probably is that our kids are very well acquainted with nature from kindergarten already onwards. And we used to have one special school subject called home studies, but it's not there anymore. But that was very good for development of ethics, social skills, and it helped a lot for future good relationships at school.
Okay, thanks a lot. Time is over, and it would be nice to continue. Yeah, okay. It's a typical situation that time is limited.
Yeah.
Yeah, and really a lot to be discussed, a lot of interesting things, etc. possible. We will meet again in the near future. And on behalf of my students and personally my good impression, and we thank a lot to our Estonian colleagues for very interesting, fruitful and rich presentation, and really good and I would say solid discussion, and it's really nice at the same time for your time sharing, for sharing of information and experience and some insights, and I hope we need some reflection on that, and later on I will share with your presentation to our students, and individually it will be possible to find possible some deeper insight, some deeper understanding. Thanks once again. Have a nice day in Estonia, in Tallinn, and possible we will meet again, not virtually, not online. I expect at least next year during our Baltic Sea 2025 symposium in June.
Yes,
you are very welcome with big group from very small Estonia.
Okay.
Thank you so much for inviting us.
Bye for now.
Bye.
Bye.